In the year 1325, a rich and powerful Muslim king arrived on pilgrimage in Mecca at the head of a gigantic baggage train which stretched for miles all the way back to the horizon. The king was so rich that in many of the cities he passed through on his way to the holy city, entire economies collapsed due to the devaluation of the currency caused by the massive influx of gold he had brought with him on his journey. That man was Mansa Musa, a West African king of Mali, and one of the richest men in history. Musa Kaita I was born in the early 1280s as the heir to the powerful West African Empire of Mali. By the time he became Mansa, or emperor, in the year 1312, his territory spanned modern-day Mali, Mauritania, and much of the surrounding areas. He was the 10th Mansa of Mali, and the latest in a long line of rulers. Musa was also a devout adherent to Islam, which had gradually filtered down from Arabia into Western Africa via the Saharan trade routes over the preceding centuries. It was undoubtedly then a religion of the rich and powerful in Mali, practiced mostly by traders and aristocrats. Naturally, as Musa was the richest man in the empire, he was also an incredibly devout follower of Islam. Mali at the time was possibly the world's largest producer of gold, during a time when gold was in its greatest demand throughout the Eurasian world. During the first 12 years of his reign, Musa spent a great amount of time conquering the cities surrounding his territory and adding their various estates and villages to his own, most notably the city of Gao, an incredibly rich trading hub which lay on the Trans-Saharan trade route, and the flourishing metropolis of Timbuktu, a centre of learning and culture in West Africa. In 1324, in a grand display of his wealth and power and his devotion to Islam, Musa set off with a mighty retinue consisting of tens of thousands of followers and slaves, along with thousands of camels loaded up with gold, supplies and commodities, to share with the rest of the Islamic world. On his journey, it is said that he gave away substantial amounts of gold to the poor that he met, and he also ordered the construction of hundreds of mosques. A wealth of first-hand accounts exist which bore witness to Musa's vast wealth, said to be near incomprehensible to those who witnessed it. Musa also met with several influential Islamic rulers along the way, such as the Mamluk Sultan of Egypt, Al-Nasir Muhammad, in Cairo, who he had a great impact upon. Not only did he give away gold to the poor, but he also traded goods for it in huge quantities, which had the unexpected effect of crippling the economies of the areas he travelled through for decades to come. The pilgrimage lasted for around a year, and upon his return to Mali in 1325, he further consolidated his rule over the empire and built mosques and universities throughout his realm, particularly at Timbuktu and Gao, which became even more prosperous centres of learning with the help of Andalusian and Egyptian architects and engineers. As news of Mali's prosperity spread throughout the Mediterranean world into southern Europe, traders from Granada, Genoa and Venice added it to their trade routes, along with traders from all over Africa and the Middle East. His rule also had the effect of urbanising large areas of the previously mostly rural empire, which at the height of its power boasted as many as 400 cities. His rule also had the knock-on effect of spreading prosperity throughout West Africa to the surrounding nations, largely through its huge natural abundance of gold. After Musa's death, West Africa remained a prosperous land for centuries, and his empire lasted until the early 17th century, when it collapsed due to increasing internal instability. It was swallowed up and replaced by new militaristic states in the region, which profited from the demand for a new currency, slaves. These are the states from whom the European powers first bought their African slaves from, by using newly acquired riches extracted from the recently discovered Americas. The discovery and exploitation of the Americas by Europe also had the knock-on effect of completely upsetting the balance of the Eurasian economy, which had existed for centuries. It wasn't until very recently, in the rise of the uneducated, racist and false view of Africans as inferior to Europeans, that it became popular to see Africa as a continent with no civilised history to speak of. The reality being that African history is just as diverse and fascinating as any other place on Earth, and always has been.